Welcome to another episode of real-life haunted stories. If you love chilling tales and spine-tingling horror stories, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a scare. New nightmares drop every week. Stay haunted. So, let's start our today's episode. Story 1, The Silent Ward. In the heart of Blackwood County, the abandoned St. Dymphna Hospital has stood untouched for nearly 50 years. Once a renowned psychiatric institution, it was abruptly shut down in the 1970s under disturbing circumstances. Patients vanished, doctors turned up dead, and rumors spread of something inhuman lurking in the underground wards. No one has dared to enter since. That is, until Alex Warren, an urban explorer and documentary filmmaker, decides to investigate the hospital for his new project, along with his younger brother, Chris, his best friend and skeptic, Nate, and paranormal expert, Dr. Evelyn Graves. They enter the crumbling remains of St. Dymphna, determined to uncover the truth. But as they move deeper into the asylum, they realize that some patients never left. The hospital was home to the Silent Ward, a secret wing where unethical experiments were conducted on patients with extreme psychological disorders. And something still resides there, something that was never meant to be released. As reality warps, shadows come alive, and time begins to collapse around them. The group must uncover the horrifying truth of what really happened in the Silent Ward. Because the hospital isn't just haunted, it's kept waiting for new patients. And once you enter, you can never leave. The flickering fluorescent lights cast eerie shadows across the abandoned hallway. The security footage was old, grainy and distorted, but it showed a nurse running down the corridor, her face twisted in terror. Behind her, something moved. A figure in a hospital gown, twitching, barely human, and then the screen went black. Alex Warren closed the laptop and exhaled. "That's it," he muttered. "That's the story." Chris leaned over his shoulder. "Dude, are you sure about this? St. Dymphna isn't just some random abandoned place. People disappear there." Alex grinned. "Then let's make sure we don't." The hospital loomed over them like a decaying skeleton. Its windows were shattered, its walls covered in graffiti, but something about it still felt alive. Dr. Evelyn Graves adjusted her backpack. "This place has a history of cognitive distortions. People who enter report losing track of time, hearing voices, experiencing hallucinations." "Sounds like a party," Nate scoffed. The entrance doors groaned open as they stepped inside, and as the last of them crossed the threshold, the doors slammed shut behind them. They explored the upper floors first: rusted beds, overturned wheelchairs, scattered patient files, the usual. Then they found the locked ward. It wasn't on any floor plans. A single heavy door, bolted shut, with deep scratch marks on the walls beside it. Evelyn's voice was barely a whisper. This wasn't for normal patients. Chris hesitated. Then who was it for? Alex forced the door open. Inside, the air was freezing. The room was lined with beds, each with thick leather straps. The walls were covered in names, scratched into the paint by desperate hands. And then, the whispers started. "We never left." They found old medical records scattered on the floor. Evelyn picked up one labeled "Patient number 99, name unknown." The notes were brief but disturbing. Patient exhibits extreme cognitive dissonance, claims to exist in multiple realities simultaneously. Treatment unsuccessful. Subject no longer responds to external stimuli. Subject appears to observe us. A loud thud echoed from the hallway. Chris spun around. What the hell was that? A shadow moved at the end of the corridor. Nate aimed his flashlight. Dude, that's not funny. The light flickered. The shadow twitched, unnaturally fast, its limbs jerking at odd angles. Then it was gone. Evelyn's voice was shaking. We need to leave. Alex turned back to the patient file. Below the last entry, written in fresh ink, you shouldn't have come. Deeper into the hospital, they discovered the silent ward. This was no ordinary asylum. This was an experiment. Doctors were trying to manipulate perception, to stretch the limits of the human mind. They wanted to see if patients could exist outside of time, beyond physical reality. But something went wrong. They didn't just push the boundaries of consciousness. They'd opened a door, and something crossed over. The lights flickered violently. A deafening screech filled the air. The walls shifted. The hospital was changing around them. Chris screamed, "It's coming!" They ran. Behind them, something crawled out of the shadows. A patient. No, a thing. That used to be a patient. Its head twisted in unnatural directions. Its eyes were empty, but something inside them moved. And then the walls sealed shut. There was no way out. Alex woke up alone. The hospital was silent. No sign of Chris, no sign of Evelyn, no sign of Nate. Only the sound of a heartbeat, slow and rhythmic. He turned a corner and stopped. There, standing at the end of the hallway, was himself, his own reflection, standing in the darkness, grinning at him. His voice, his own voice, echoed through the empty halls. "Welcome home, Alex. You belong here now." And the door to the silent ward slammed shut. 2 months later, a group of hikers found a camera outside the hospital. The footage showed Alex and his team entering St. Dymphna. It showed them exploring. It showed them screaming. And then, the last frame. A single patient file, freshly written. Patient number 100, name, Alex Warren. Status, admitted. And then the screen cut to black. Story 2, The Forgotten Asylum. When investigative journalist Daniel Carter receives a cryptic email about a long-abandoned asylum on the outskirts of Ravenswood, he can't resist the lure of a new story. The Ravenswood Asylum was shut down decades ago under mysterious circumstances. Patients disappeared, staff died under strange conditions, and whispers of dark experiments filled the air. But no one has dared to step inside since, determined to uncover the truth. Daniel, along with his photographer girlfriend Lauren, and a reluctant paranormal investigator, Victor, ventures into the decaying ruins. What starts as a thrilling exploration soon turns into a nightmare as the asylum's dark past refuses to stay buried. Shadows whisper, doors slam shut on their own, and something sinister lurks beneath the surface, something that doesn't want them to leave. As the trio digs deeper, they discover that the asylum was home to a secret experiment designed to manipulate the human mind, conducted by the enigmatic Dr. Elias Harrow. His research, known as the Harrow Procedure, was meant to cure mental illness, but instead created something monstrous. The spirits of his tortured patients still roam the halls, and some of them are not just memories. They are very much aware, and they are hungry time running out and the asylum itself seemingly alive, Daniel and his friends must find a way to escape before they, too, become part of its horrifying history. But as the walls close in and reality warps, they begin to question whether they ever truly had a choice, or if they were always meant to return. Daniel Carter was used to receiving strange emails. As an investigative journalist who specialized in urban legends and forgotten places, his inbox was often flooded with ghost stories, blurry photographs, and warnings to stay away from certain places. Most of them were hoaxes, but this one was different. It came from an anonymous sender with no subject line, only a single link to a file containing old newspaper clippings, medical records, and a typed message. Ravenswood Asylum never closed. Not really. Find the basement. Find the truth. Daniel's pulse quickened. He had heard of Ravenswood, of course. Everyone had. The asylum had been abandoned for over 50 years after a fire wiped out most of its staff and patients. Official reports stated the place was condemned, but rumors persisted about disappearances, strange lights flickering inside, and the occasional drifter who went in and never came out. Lauren leaned over his shoulder, her dark hair brushing against his cheek. "Another ghost hunt?" she asked with a smirk. Daniel grinned. "Looks like it. Feel like tagging along?" She sighed. "Only if I get to bring my camera." The asylum loomed before them like a corpse of stone and steel, its skeletal remains hidden behind twisted vines and shattered windows. The air around it was different, thicker, heavier. Even Victor, their skeptical paranormal expert, hesitated before stepping inside. "This place doesn't feel right," he muttered. Daniel pushed the heavy doors open, and a wave of stale, mold-ridden air greeted them. The floor was littered with decayed patient files, rusted wheelchairs, and overturned hospital beds. The silence was oppressive, pressing against their ears. Lauren snapped a photo, her flash revealing faded murals on the walls, distorted figures with hollow eyes. And then something moved in the darkness, a scraping sound like fingernails dragging across the floor. Victor cursed under his breath. "This better not be some elaborate prank, Daniel." Daniel didn't respond. He was too focused on the corridor ahead, where a single light flickered in a room that should have been abandoned decades ago. As they ventured deeper into the asylum, they uncovered old patient files detailing cruel experiments. Dr. Elias Harrow believed that fear could be extracted from the human mind, turned into something tangible. He had conducted tests on patients, exposing them to their worst nightmares, locking them in rooms with mirrors that reflected things that weren't there, whispering voices only they could hear. One file stood out. Patient 47, status, never released. The notes were barely legible, but one line sent chills through Daniel's spine. Subject's consciousness appears to persist beyond death. Continued study required. And then a voice, soft, broken, right behind them. "Why did you come back?" Lauren gasped. The hallway behind them was no longer empty. A figure stood there, draped in a tattered hospital gown, its head tilted at an unnatural angle. Its eyes were hollow, but something moved within them. Shadows, writhing like living things. The door to the basement creaked open on its own. They were no longer exploring. They were being invited. The deeper they went, the more the asylum began to change. Walls shifted, doors appeared where they hadn't before, and echoes of long-forgotten screams filled the air. It was as if they had stepped out of time, into a past that refused to die. They found operating rooms filled with rusted surgical tools, dried blood still staining the floor. And then, in the heart of the asylum, they found the final experiment room. The mirrors in the room were not reflections, they were windows, and something was watching them from the other side. As they struggled to escape, the asylum fought back. Their flashlights flickered, doors slammed shut, and unseen hands reached for them. The spirits were no longer whispers in the dark. They were awake. And then, Daniel saw him, Dr. Elias Harrow, standing behind the glass, untouched by time. His lips curled into a grin. "Fear never dies," he whispered. And then the walls collapsed, dragging them into the abyss. When the police finally found Daniel's camera, it was sitting outside the asylum's entrance, covered in dust, as if it had been there for decades. The footage inside showed Daniel, Lauren, and Victor stepping into the asylum. It showed the doors closing behind them, and then nothing. They were never seen again. But sometimes at night, if you stand outside Ravenswood Asylum, you can hear them screaming, trapped in the halls of a place that never truly let them go. Story 3, The Hollow Clinic. When Emma Calloway, a medical student with a passion for uncovering forgotten histories, stumbles upon the story of Hollow Creek Clinic. She's immediately intrigued. The psychiatric hospital, abandoned for over 60 years, was once a place for experimental treatments, promising to heal the mind through controversial procedures. Then, one night in 1958, the entire staff have vanished without a trace, leaving only patients behind, some dead, some different. Now, Hollow Creek stands as a crumbling ruin in the middle of nowhere, its past buried under secrecy. Determined to investigate, Emma enlists her childhood friend, Mark, her skeptical boyfriend, Ryan, and paranormal investigator, Dr. Lillian Graves, to help her document the asylum's history. But when they enter the facility, something wakes up. Strange noises echo through the empty halls. The walls seem to shift, and worst of all, someone or something is watching them. As they uncover the horrifying truth behind Hollow Creek's last experiment, they realize the hospital isn't just haunted, it's alive, and it wants them to stay. The article was old, yellowed, edges curling from time. Mass disappearance at Hollow Creek Clinic. Authorities are baffled by the sudden disappearance of Hollow Creek's medical staff. Patients were found wandering the halls, confused and terrified. One survivor, a nurse, claimed the walls swallowed them. Authorities dismiss this as hysteria. The hospital has been shut down indefinitely. Emma's pulse quickened. This was it. The mystery that had been forgotten. "Do you really want to go there?" Mark asked, peering over her shoulder. She smiled. "We're not just going. We're spending the night." The hospital stood like a decaying skeleton, its once pristine walls now covered in mold and graffiti. Vines curled around broken windows. The entrance doors were slightly ajar, as if waiting for them. Ryan exhaled sharply. Great, creepy as hell. Dr. Graves adjusted her camera. "Stay close. Places like this, they like to play tricks on you." Emma pushed the doors open. The moment they stepped inside, the air changed. It was heavy, thick with dust and something else, something unseen. The lights of their flashlights flickered. A faint whisper danced along the walls. And then, from deep inside the hospital, the door slammed shut. They found patient files scattered on the floor, names scratched out, replaced with numbers. Mark picked up one. Patient number 046, unresponsive, undergoing stage 2 of the hollow procedure. Ryan frowned. What the hell is the hollow procedure? Emma's breath hitched as she read another document. The final step in curing fear is to remove the self. Only then can the mind be free. A sharp bang echoed from the hallway. Mark swung his flashlight toward the source. Did you hear that? They weren't alone. And something just moved. In the darkness, the deeper they went, the worse it became. Footsteps echoed where no one was walking. Murmurs filled the air, words they couldn't quite understand. Then they found the surgical wing. A rusted operating table sat in the center of the room, thick leather straps still attached. Tools were scattered across the floor, saws, scalpels, syringes filled with a blackened liquid. And on the far wall, a message scratched into the paint. The doctor never left. Ryan swallowed. I don't like this. Then a voice, low, gravelly. Why did you come here? A figure stood in the doorway, dressed in a rotting doctor's coat. Smiling, they ran. Doors slammed on their own. Hallways stretched longer, leading them in circles. And the patients, oh God, the patients. Figures in tattered hospital gowns appeared in the corners of their vision, mouths hanging open, faces twisted as if their souls had been hollowed out. Dr. Graves gasped. They're not ghosts. They're... The lights went out. In the darkness, something whispered right against Emma's ear. They made us empty. Now, it's your turn. The hospital wasn't letting them leave. Emma tried the main doors. They wouldn't budge. Windows were bricked over. Hallways led them back to the center. Ryan's voice shook. It's like the place is alive. Dr. Graves flipped through a patient file, her hands trembling. They weren't just treating mental illness. They were trying to erase it, to remove people's fears by taking away their very selves. Mark pointed at the wall. Then, what the hell is that? A new message, freshly scratched into the paint. Join us. Double asterisk. And then the screaming started. Emma woke up on the operating table, strapped down. Mark, Ryan, and Dr. Graves were nowhere to be seen. A shadow loomed over her. This doctor. You wanted the truth, he whispered, tightening the straps. Now you'll become part of it. Something cold slid into her veins. Darkness swallowed her whole. Days later, police received an anonymous tip about Hollow Creek Clinic. Inside, they found 4 cameras, but no bodies. The final recording showed Emma strapped to the table, her eyes wide with terror, then static, and finally, a new file plunged on the doctor's desk. Patient number 047, name, Emma Calloway. Status, admitted. The hospital had claimed another, and it was still waiting for more. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, to show your support, comment, to share your thoughts, or ask questions. And don't forget to subscribe to stay updated with our latest content. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload.